So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the progression that you'll go through for the next part of your project, which is the hotel layout and space planning. And I'm going to cover several different topics. I'm going to start with just a sort of general plan layout with walls, and we'll do that, and we'll talk about rooms, and then we'll talk about design options. And then we will look at zooming in on a specific room to do a detail of that room. Let's go ahead and for these purposes, I'm going to go ahead and go to a 3D and a 2D view just so you can see it. So right now I'm in my Plan A2 schematic. And so I am going to go to my 3D view and duplicate it here. And I'll name this 3D L2. Okay. And then I'll come and I'll set, just like we did for the bar, I'll come in and go to Orient to View, Floor Plans, and I'll go to Plan A2 Schematic, and it'll pop right into that view. And if I go to sort of my 3D view, you can start to see it, and then I can kind of pull it up. It's kind of in the door right now, but just kind of get it to where it's kind of right below the floor, maybe right like that, where I can kind of see what I'm working on. And if you want to, you can sort of hide the section box if you want to, just to make it a little cleaner. And then I'll go to WTZA and maybe pull this one over a little smaller so you can still see it, but I get a little bit more room for this. All right, so if you want to start coming and doing space planning, the first thing I would do is I would come in and I would just delete these tags because we're going to have to redo them anyway. They're actually looking for room bounding objects, and we can re-tag them later, but just delete them. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll give you an error message that say you're deleting a tag, but the room is still there. And that's fine. You can always re-tag the room. I'm going to get rid of the dimensions as well because I don't really need those. And now I'm just going to come in and start doing some very quick space planning. So again, this is not indicative of what you should be doing, but I am going to come in and say that I'm going to have two suites on either side and then smaller sort of dormitory or more efficiency in the middle. So what I would recommend you do is come to the architecture and wall command here, and if I go to wall architectural, you can pick the type of wall that you want. I would recommend like picking two different walls, like maybe a 6-inch and an 8-inch for right now. The 8-inch would be for the corridor walls, which would be a little thicker, and the 6-inch might be for just walls that divide, that are partition walls that don't have to be soundproof. So I'm just going to go to this generic 8-inch wall, and you're going to notice that its base constraint is A2 and it's going to go up to A3, which means its unconnected height is 13 foot 2, right? Right now the top offset is set to 1 foot 2, which is making it going to poke through the floor. So make sure you check these settings. Now I'm going to set that to 0. And then I can go in and start determining where these suites are going to happen. So if I'm going to have a suite at the end of this corridor, maybe initially I decide I want it somewhere around here, and then I come in, there's maybe a little entryway that sets it off so it's not right by the door, and that will be one of my larger suites at the end. And then if this is the elevator coming up, then it depends on how you want to do it. This obviously has to be open for exit. So if there's a larger suite that happens kind of on this end, maybe we start off by partitioning that guy out. And we have a very large end suite, and then this guy, maybe it comes all the way down, right? And that becomes our corridor. And we start to, look at how big that corridor is. So if that's, looks like I got it at 5 feet. So that's generous enough for me right now. And then we start to think about, okay, if these are the less expensive rooms, then you begin to divide those up. Maybe the walls are a little thinner. You're not expecting quite the amenities that you would have in the other ones. So I'll come and put, and just remember, you can always come in and change these later, right? So if I hit these guys, right, and so maybe what happens in these, and I just really quickly want to put some doors in there, so I'll go to my door command and I'll just stick, there's a 6 panel 36 by 84, and that's a paneled door. There's a single flat door, so you could use those as well. There's a single flush generic white door, which I might recommend because it doesn't really have a material on it yet, if you're not sure. So you could do, you know, a 36 by 84, and you could just come in and say, you know, and if you hit the space bar, it'll flip these, that's one, and then that's one, and then that's one, and then maybe these guys share a bathroom, so the bathroom, you have a shared bathroom here, between these two, and then maybe there's, you know, maybe this actually gets pushed in here. That wouldn't work, but let's just say that's a shared bathroom between these two, and this one gets its own bathroom, right? So maybe this one's a little bit more generous and it has its own bathroom in here. So now we're starting to look at the division of these, and if these are two big suites, maybe this one's large enough, so maybe you kind of start to think you have a common area down here that opens up, near this area. But that kind of gets you started to divide these up. Now, when I come back, we'll look at rooms and possibly design options.